on the note of making work, should we talk about the big boss?
Oh,
the
goat,
the top of the mountain,
the goat,
the Michael Jordan of Sadler's Wells.
Yeah,
the Tiger Woods
of dance,
of telling stories through movement.
We're talking about Crystal Pite.
Do you want to set it up for the audience? Who is Crystal Pite? What did we go see? Give us the background.
Okay, so Crystal Pite is a Canadian. What up, Canada?
A Canadian. What up, Canada?
Yeah, she's a Canadian choreographer from BC, British Columbia, and she is an associate artist at Sadler's Wells. She has a dance company called Kid Pivot that's been around for a long time, and she's like probably one of the world's most like celebrated contemporary choreographers. Oh, yeah. And yeah, so she's been doing her work for years, but she has a collaborator that this is their third piece doing it together. He's a playwright and an actor called Jonathon Young, and I think his theater company is called Electric Theater.
While you continue.
Electric something. So they first collaborated in 2015 on a piece called Betroffenheit. And then they did, I think in 2018, Reviser. And now this is their third piece that they did together that's called Assembly Hall. Mm-hmm. That was at Sadler's, I think that from Wednesday to Saturday. So they had like a 4-night run.
Yeah.
Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Yeah, 4 nights. And yeah, I feel like I've set it up.
Electric Company Theatre.
Right.
Yeah.
So
yeah. So I've seen The Statement, I've seen Reviser, I've seen Assembly Hall, and what was the other one called that I saw? The short one?
It was Creatures of Extinction.
Okay.
I think.
Something of Extinction.
Creatures.
And that was a triple bill. That one was with who else was on that?
Well, it was all Netherlands dance theater, but I can't remember the other
the one I went to see, The Statement, was Netherlands Dance Theatre, and that was Wayne McGregor, Crystal Pite, and someone else, all choreographing on one company, which is an interesting model. And then when we went to see The Extinction, that was NDT as well. Okay,
so that was NDT.
I think Wayne McGregor did something on that as well. No,
I don't think it was. I know one of them was a German choreographer, and then the other one was Peeping Tom.
That piece was good.
That
piece was good.
So she choreographs a lot, like, you know, also on ballets and like in Paris, like she gets commissioned for different things, but that was like a work on her company.
Yeah, so this is like her company, her work,
her dancers,
I think Statement, Reviser, and Assembly Hall are like my top three. I'm unset on positions. Yeah, potentially of all time. The Extinction one, it didn't blow me away, but it was still obviously really good. Yeah, it didn't blow me away. But yeah, I was thinking of who even comes close to those three pieces that I've seen in my personal taste, and I was thinking Tentacle Tribe. I saw Origami Mummy and 369, which is Origami Mummy was not a full length. It's like 20 minutes or 15 or something.
Yeah, it's like short. It's
maybe
shorter.
Even 10 minutes.
Yeah, I think it's like 10, 15, something like that.
And then 369 was a full 50 minutes, I think, that we saw at Summer Dance. Those two I loved. Marion Moton, Rouge.
Yeah.
Beautiful piece. I really love that. That might be one of the Tentacle Tribes, and Marion might be 4 and 5 of my top 5. Not that I've seen a billion pieces in the world, but those three are like, I don't even know anyone else who comes close in terms of anything at the theatre, hip hop or not. Yeah. But so I'm sure she didn't invent it, but she has this, like, I guess somewhat of a signature thing now of like having voiceover track. Yeah. Where it's like dialogue that's pre-recorded, and then the dancers like literally like mouth the words while they're dancing. So obviously you don't have the issues of them being out of breath or whatever, but they have to learn, like, and it's not like very obvious. It's very human, well-written dialogue. So there's loads of nuances to how they say it and stuff. So it's insane that they can mouth the entire show, let alone dance as well and do all the stuff that they do. It's kind of one of those things you have to see to really get it. But yeah, I mean, the thing that I love about her, about Crystal Pite, that I love is that, I was saying this to you after we saw the show, but is that like coming from the kind of hip hop theater background, right? When you watch this, you're like, this is not just, oh, she's a good dance choreographer. Like, this is like storytelling done, and I guess that's Jonathon Young's influence as well. But like, the storytelling of the piece is beautiful. Like, all the elements come together to make it like a great story. Like, the set is so simple but so good. Yeah. The lighting's amazing and really well done, not just for the sake of it and just, you know, predictable. It's like really well done. The story is interesting itself. The dialogue is not only well written, but the voice acting is great in it. It doesn't sound like someone, like a dancer just recorded that. It's like professional voice actors that do the acting. So even just the track alone is interesting before you even see anything. And then the way they use costumes, the way they use the space and like transfer. That's always a really intriguing thing about plays is like they just have one space to, like a movie in the cinema, you can go and use every location in the world. A play, you have one stage with one size to transform mid-play. So if you want to change scenery, you have to do that as it's happening. So I think, there's so many things that are good, but then with Crystal Pite's like movement stuff, the thing that I love is the like nuance to the movement that she chooses, because with like all of those things, she could just put good and the thing is, her dances are fucking fantastic. So she could just put those dancers on stage moving to the words and everyone would give her a standing ovation already, like without anything. But the thing I think that elevates it is like, and I said this with the statement, is that she's using like nuance in the movement that's like built into the story, but you're physicalizing it, right? So I was saying with the statement, it's like there was the best example I can think of is like, I think there's a moment where there's 4 people talking and they're dancing, right? But the way that the conversation is going is it's like a corporate discussion, let's say, right? And the way the discussion is going is that it's very polite and civil, but one person you can tell the subtext is that they're kind of pulling rank and like putting pressure and being like, oh no, but could you maybe tell me more? And it's like a bit like they're putting it on them subtly. But the dancers are physicalizing that. They're literally like on the table, backing them down. And it's like the voice thing is so innocent, but because the subtext is menacing, the dancers are physicalizing that in a menacing way. And it's like using the subtext of what the context is and how they're talking to create movement from is so sick to me. And like she did that in this, but also with like some surrealist moments and like some things which, let's say, and we were just talking about Euphoria that does the same thing, but this idea that in Euphoria what they do is they have scenes where something surreal happens, but they play it as if it's part of reality. So you have, let's say, the 2 people taking drugs, and it's not like a cutaway. There's no indication that this is the dreamland where these things are happening. But just in the normal scene, she starts crying glitter, right? That's like the famous scene from Euphoria. And it's like the way that it's embedded into the scene is that this is real life. But we know that it's a surreal moment to illustrate that they're high, right? And I think Crystal Pite does that a lot in her all the 4 pieces that I've seen, but especially this one, where we're not meant to think that this thing is actually happening, right? So like there's obviously when they go into dance and when they do certain things with the costume and the set and there's so much things that I don't want to give away, but even if I said it wouldn't do it justice. But there's so many things that she does that we're not meant to think that this is actually happening as part of the story, because it is a very concrete story. It's not an abstract just movement piece. It's like this is happening, this is happening, this is happening. So when these surreal moments happen, she plays it as if it's part of the story and as if it's really happening, but we automatically understand that it's a surreal moment meant to illustrate a dreamlike state or a way of someone feeling or some type of absurd correlation between 2 things. And I think that's what I really love, because it's one thing I think a lot of amateur choreographers do is they spoon feed their audience as if they're like 5-year-old kids. And I think as audience members, we like to do a little bit of work. We like to be active in our brain and to meet the choreographer halfway. So it's like, it's same with a movie, you know, you watch Inception or something and it's like, it's not Marvel, you know, Ant-Man or something that you can just sit back and don't have to pay attention to. It's like you have to focus a little bit, and it's rewarding to focus and have to figure it out. And I think, say with this piece and a lot of our other work, is like you do have to be a bit active and try and figure out what she's saying and all the
but you stay engaged.
And it's one of the, let's say, it doesn't happen all the time, but like 60 to 70% of the time that I go watch stuff in the theater, I get sleepy. Because it's just like, it's hot and it's loud and it's late and I've probably had a long day and I get a bit like droopy eyed watching theatre. I'm sure there's people that don't admit it but also agree with me. But her pieces, all three of them, is like the most awake I've been. It's like coffee in a piece. It's like I'm sitting forward literally like, this is sick. And I'm like actively not only figuring out what she means by it, but like I'm breaking down in my head all the elements. I'm like, oh, and that's that. And then by the time I figure out that part, it's moved on and a new element is in play. And then the music starts to come in and I'm like, oh, that's supposed to be the thing from earlier. And oh, look, now they do. And it's just like, my brain is constantly doing that, which for me is like the most rewarding way to watch art. Is like, don't spoon feed me and make everything super obvious, which I think also that's a big flaw of hip hop theater. It's like a lot of it that I've seen is like very spoon feedy. Like if you're acting something out, it's pantomime-y. If you're trying to get I'm crying, you do the most pantomime cry ever, you know? Whereas I think a lot of these more experienced choreographers, they're doing things with such a level of subtlety that it's like, it's trusting in their audience to be able to pick up on that stuff.
Yeah, but I think it's like I think it's like the dance skill is one thing and then the storytelling thing is the storytelling skill is a different skill, you know? So I think it's like, as you start, even if you have 10 years of experience as a dancer, when you start making things in storytelling, it's like there's another learning curve of how to kind of, you know, where the dance is not the like it's not the point.
Yeah, and it's I think that's Jonathan Majors. Wow, Jonathan Young's his we're talking about Marvel. That's Jonathan Young's contribution, I guess, is the play writing and the storytelling.
Exactly, because it's like, you know, I think the way when they've collaborated, it's like the way the story is built is like really kind of somebody that's their craft.
Yes, yeah, and you really feel like that, I think, in it, because it's like it is a dance piece, but it's more of a play than a dance piece.
Like it's kind of somewhere between like physical theater, dance, and theater. Like I don't think it necessarily really fits in one box, and that's what makes it.
Like if you said, "Oh, we're going to see a play," and that was the play, like I wouldn't think any. Yeah, you know what I mean? It's like, oh, there's dancers in the play. But
I guess the main thing for me is like the people on stage are dancers.
Sure.
Like that's kind of the main art form that is like being performed.
Yeah, true. But it is more about the story than it is about, which I would, I mean, again, like that's what I would associate with a play, is like when it's about us telling a story. Whereas often when I go see dance theater, it's like, yeah, there's a story, but it's mostly about the dance. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but I think it's like, and you know, that kind of goes with like taste. You know, I think for me, the like my favorite works that I've seen, you know, always kind of had a narrative that I could, like, I do like to be able to really not get something, but if it's too abstract, sometimes I get a little bit like disengaged.
That's the thing. It's like, it's hard to, I've spoken about this to people, but it's like when you have something that's really abstract, the audience are looking for narrative first, right? If you put two people on stage, you already think there's a relationship between them. It's a friend, it's a love thing or whatever. So people are looking for narrative in anything. Yeah. If you make it so abstract that they're going to fall off, like if I think of it as like layers like that you can literally fall off.
Yeah.
if they're going to fall off the narrative layer because your piece is so abstract and that's quite a airy, fairy, cloudy type of layer.
Yeah.
If they're going to fall, you have to have something that's going to catch them.
Yeah.
So like I often talk about it of like just the strength of movement and like how cool the movement. So I'm like, if the audience don't get your story and they don't even invest or they don't even think about the story, is it just visually pleasing enough for them to enjoy for half an hour?
But it's like, I think that's what also, certain like art forms, I feel like ballet, it's kind of like the stories are like old classics that everyone knows the story. Like it's like Swan Lake, okay, in the first act, this is what happens. So because people come in already knowing the story, then it's like, it doesn't have to worry as much about like, even if it is kind of explicit in a way, it's like, because the story already, you can kind of make the association of like, oh yeah, this part means that. And
you can keep it abstract because we know what the thing is. Like we know what it's supposed to be because we know the story. So
and we know who the characters are. Like, oh, we know that's a princess and this is the guy that's going to come save her and da, da, da. So it's like part of the work is already done, but I think, and kind of going back to like the open art surgery thing is like, what is the story or the piece that you want to tell? Like, does that need to be an hour? Like, is the story that you want to tell, like, is it 15 minutes long? If it's 15 minutes long, then there's no point in making it 30 just for the sake of making it a longer piece. But I just think there, one of my favorite things about, I think, like the Crystal Pite pieces that I've seen is just like, there's always a certain level of humor.
Oh, it was genuinely funny. And I'm not one to laugh if it's not funny, but it's like, it was actually, it's so hard to describe where it's like, you're not laughing because they're trying to make you laugh. It's like, it actually is funny.
It's clever and it's like, I feel like humor is so much harder to do than like dark and stormy.
Big compliment to Jonathon Young.
Yeah.
Because it's 100%, well, Crystal Pite supplements the humor with the work, but it's Jonathon Young's writing and the voice acting that makes it actually funny.
Yeah, and it's like, I feel like they do such a good job as well. And even like on stage with the movement and the choreography, but just everything in general of capturing things that are so human and so recognizable of like, we all know that person that is like that. We all like, you kind of recognize the characters of everyday life, and I think even though like the premise are quite specific, it's kind of easy to recognize your own life or people in it, and to make the association and to kind of then take it into like a surrealist kind of like dream space, that kind of goes in a bunch of different directions. But I just think she's like, and this is again about finding collaborators. It's like they found each other and they both I don't know how they work together like through the process, but they both kind of play to each other's strengths, and I'm sure there's parts where he works on his own and she works on her own, and then they come together and then they're like, what about this, what about that, what about this, and then again like go on their thing. So it's a testament to when you find
your
people
ability
that
to collaborate.
Yeah, then it kind of elevates it so much higher than if she had the idea and she tried to write it.
Yeah, 100%. Insane. Yeah. So good. So good. It's gone now, but I would recommend.
Yeah.
Anything with her name on it, I would recommend doing that. If Crystal Pite, like, I don't know,
does anything.
Yeah. If she does anything, go and see it.